CBI's Seize the Moment campaign, which makes an important contribution to the role business can play in driving UK economic growth. The government shares the CBI's ambition for a decade of stronger performance, achieved by working closely with business. Post-pandemic, the government's plan for growth can deliver a sustainable recovery for communities right across our United Kingdom. And I agree, we must seize the moment to put the UK on a path to prosperity from Polzeath to Peterhead. This vision sets out interesting ideas to help businesses of all sizes and in all parts of the UK to grow in new ways for new times. I know that government and business will work together in a shared commitment on everything from decarbonisation to innovation, levelling up, future skills and global trade success. And it will take this respective commitment to work together on reaching these prizes. I will continue to work with the CBI on this journey and look forward to its continued insight, action and mobilisation of businesses across the UK to ensure we seize the moment we have before us.
What an outstanding message from the Chancellor, really supportive, really appreciate that. Thank you, Rishi. And really, one of the messages we're getting across, came across very clearly from Tony, what you said earlier, is how closely we're working with government and have done throughout the pandemic. And this word collaboration that you spoke of, Nick, well, we've seen that in action now with the Chancellor's message, planning for growth. We're looking forward to working closely with Rishi, with him, his team in the Treasury. Now, please do submit your questions. Put them in the chat, and I will try and get to as many as we can over the next time we have together. But while I'm waiting for the first question to come through, Keith, may I come to you again? As a UK-wide company headquartered in Scotland, just tell us a bit about, you mentioned about Scotland being the place. What does Seize the Moment mean in terms of the Scottish economy and the other devolved nations?
Fine. Look, I could talk for hours on this, but I'll keep this short.
Thank you.
There's a great book out there that's called How Scotland Invented the Modern World. Okay, and I actually think we're at a point in time now where Scotland has the opportunity to reinvent the modern world. And what do I mean by that? The heritage we have, the natural resources we have, the innovation skills, the engineering skills that we have available to us in Scotland put us in a brilliant, brilliant place to be at the heart of building back Britain better, at the heart of Seize the Moment. So we've got massive renewable natural resource. We've got a massive level of innovation and knowledge and engineering skills around creating a hydrogen economy. We've got some brilliant ways of electrifying the transport system. We've got some fantastic opportunities in terms of decarbonising the heat system across Scotland, and some brilliant ways of using your prototype projects, research projects to help drive all of that forward. So my big aim in life is to make sure, when we talk about balancing up the economy and rebalancing the economy across the whole of the UK, that doesn't stop at the north of England, it goes all the way to the north of Scotland, because we've just got some brilliant, brilliant ways of pushing forward decarbonisation. We're already at the forefront of renewable electricity in Scotland in terms of the percentages we've reached, and we can do exactly the same with hydrogen, exactly the same with transport, and exactly the same with heat. So massive, massive opportunity, and to me, critical that we get the base investment in the infrastructure, whether it's port facilities, whether it's the distribution system, whether it's the heat system. If we get those basic infrastructure investments correct, we can create massive supply chain opportunity. That's what triggers the jobs, it triggers the apprenticeships, it triggers the training opportunities. That's what gives people hope, that's what gives people a future, and that's what drives a better economy, it's what drives a better society. And that's what we need to make sure we have, is people have hope and opportunity out of all of the stuff we're going to do in the future. And Scotland is incredibly well placed to do that. All of it in the year of COP26. So we've got that massive programme of world leaders coming to Glasgow in November. What a brilliant showcase, what a brilliant focal point. And to me, the trick now is, let's agree what 15 things are we going to deliver between now and COP26. Take each part of the 10-point plan, take everything we've talked about and seize the moment and do the delivery plan and tell us how we're going to get there and what we're going to have done by the time we hit COP26 to showcase to the world what leadership means, what decarbonisation means, what innovation means, and what opportunity means.
Fantastic, fantastic. I'm so glad you mentioned that again. Of course, COP26 is going to be in Glasgow, and we're proud as the UK to be hosting it. Thank you very much, Keith. Thanks. We've got some questions coming in from the audience, and the first one is for you, Nick. We've seen a real entrepreneurial spirit emerge through this pandemic. People setting up new businesses, trying new ventures, taking risks. So, the Business Secretary, Kwasi Kwarteng, has got an acronym ENZI, Enterprise Net Zero Innovation. So how do we use the Seize the Moment work to build on that entrepreneurial spirit as an entrepreneur yourself?
I think the strategy, the Seize the Moment strategy, actually builds all of the entrepreneurship in that. And maybe I can give you a little bit of an example of my career. 30 years ago, I started a business from a garage with a phone and a fax. And the real aim was that I felt there was a need for high-quality medicines in developing countries, especially in some of the lower middle-income countries. The standard of medicines weren't very good. And we had that brand UK, the quality standards. So with a fax on the phone, I started exporting. We started as a 100% export business, reaching out to Commonwealth countries and saying we can supply high-quality medicines from the UK into the global world, and very much focused on the developing nations. And as I grew the business, we started thinking about inclusivity, which is part of the strategy. You hire people, you grow the business, you've got to start thinking about training, skilling, upskilling, making sure that you've got the best people in your business. And then, of course, innovation. As we developed the business, we went from trading to R&D, to manufacturing of generic medicines, and of course all of that needs innovation. So those are 3 pillars. And then of course we're in Leicestershire, in the East Midlands. We wanted to make sure we were in an area that was great universities, students, hospitals for clinical trials. All of these things really matter. So the levelling up agenda of the regional inclusion is so important. And then of course everything is in our DNA as a pharmaceutical company. A healthy nation and a healthy world is something that really works. And as we get bigger and we think about really some of the big challenges we have around climate change, every business and every individual should be looking at those things and seeing how we can go net zero. So you can see all of those 6 points went through the whole of the last 30 years of my career. And I think that's what's so important about this. It's not just for large businesses. This strategy works for SMEs, startups, mid-size, all the way up to the large corporates, and we should all embrace it.
Fantastic, Nick. I mean, listening to that resonates with my own journey building Cobra Beer from scratch. We're just 2 of us and building it all the way up, and all the things you've said just resonate 100%. Thank you.
Karan, can I jump in on that one? I think what's really interesting about you guys are the entrepreneurs. We have 3 of Britain's great entrepreneurs here. I always feel that disruption aids entrepreneurs. And good Lord, what disruption we've had, right? We've had Brexit, which forces our exporters to think differently, to be entrepreneurial about new markets. We've had COVID, which all of a sudden puts health on the agenda and disrupts supply chains. We've got net zero, as you say. Decarbonisation is probably the greatest shock to the system. And I have a sense that entrepreneurs love moments of disruption. We see disruption, they see opportunities. And so I wonder, Joanna, you're a great entrepreneur in Wales. Does that resonate for you, the idea of disruption bringing opportunity?
It totally resonates. It resonates both with us personally as a business at Moneypenny. We took this big step back and said we can either hide, survive or thrive. Which one do we want to be in this economic climate and in this environment? But we're also seeing it through our client base as well. We've got about 25,000 mostly SME clients from all kinds of different sectors. And what is really relevant right now is that you can see them taking a big step back and saying, I've got a blank sheet of paper. The world has changed. How do I need to change as a leader? How does my business need to change to compete in the modern environment? And where are my new markets? Are my new routes to market as well? And I think this is absolutely critical right now. And going back to entrepreneurialism, you can just see that in action right now. And you can also see it with the amount of new businesses that are being created too.
Excellent.
Can I just add to that,
please,
Karan?
please.
I think I mentioned adaptability last time, and if you just look at how COVID Brexit has made us all adapt, and business does that very well. I would say 15 months ago, we were very much a business that on-site didn't really have home working. Overnight, we had to change because of COVID. I had to buy 100 plus laptops and start changing our systems. But what it's done is made us stronger. It's made us better for our employees. It's made us better as a business. And I think that's something that when you do have challenges, you've got to look at the opportunities and see how you can make things much better for the economy.
Yep, and I'm so glad you said that, because the words that this whole pandemic is collaboration, adaptability, and resilience.
Resilience.
And fantastic. Now, Tony,
Yeah.
what about, this has been such a tough time, as you said. How do you see the UK is perceived internationally? This is a question that's come in. Do we still have the strengths to compete and win on the global stage?
Yeah, I think we do. I think that we looked in this work at export opportunities, almost sector by sector, market by market. And I think there are some really big market opportunities in places that still hold the UK in very high regard for quality process, for outstanding service, be it China, India, Asia. And so that gives me great confidence. The second thing that gives me real confidence about our international footprint is actually what Keith was talking about. I mean, if we made those investments Keith describes, and I think Keith was describing them just to, correct me if I'm wrong, Keith, just to serve the UK market, we're going to build so much know-how, we're going to build so much technology. I mean that in the product and the service sense. There's one of the big things we talk about in the report is actually not only do we lead on net zero for our own sake, but we're actually going to become a potentially huge exporter of green know-how. And so there's a double return, not only in the domestic market, but around the world. And I'm very hopeful that the UK will become a brand around the world for not only the frontier technologies of climate change, but also how you transition the whole economy. I don't know, Keith, if you would agree that actually that's the double return on these investments.
Look, absolutely, Tony. And it's already happening. We headquarter our global offshore business from the UK, and that team are now involved in projects in America, in the Far East, right across Europe. We're into South America now as well. So that opens up massive opportunities for companies in our supply chain. So if you're already working with us and doing a successful job working with us in the UK market, that opens up the potential to go to the US, to South America, to the Far East as well. So it's just a brilliant, brilliant way of starting. And you see that opportunity really open up around how do we tackle the heat market, how do we tackle the hydrogen market and hydrogen technology. And there are some great companies already in the UK building electrolyzers. And again, fantastic, fantastic opportunity. Speed becomes of the essence, and that's where we need to go fast to get the innovation driven through, to show how you create frameworks and markets, and then export that excellence, the technology, the regulatory models, the market models, and show other countries how to push forward and take our supply chain with us. But huge, huge opportunities to do it.
Well, Keith, the point you're making about this global race you made earlier for investment. So one, we've got to continue to attract the investment as a global race, but also it's a global race from exporting. And the work that we've done on this sees the moment. If you look at superstar exporters, the companies like yours that export more than 10 products to more than 10 countries, only 14% of UK exporters do that. Whereas in Germany, 40% do that. So there's a huge job to be done, and the government is helping. We've got these loans for exporters, but we can do much more. Fantastic. Now, Tony, what about equality, diversity, inclusion, gender, race, and I will come to you as well, Joanna, after Tony, to answer that.
Yeah, well, look, a very big week. Of course, this week's the anniversary of George Floyd's killing, and I think. You heard me ask in the focus group, one of the attendees, about whether or not this time it will stick. So I think it's been a good year for caring about diversity, certainly in terms of race, but it has to stick. We at the CBI we believe that we should have ethnicity pay gap reporting as well as gender pay gap reporting, and we're going to bring out, I just looked at the data the other day, which was mixed. We could be doing better, our own ethnicity pay gap reporting. The one thing I would say, and I've got a feeling, knowing a little bit about Joanna's business, she might agree with this, and I was just talking to Tesco the other day about the same thing, and other employers of a lot of people. It is businesses that really create get on and get in life opportunities. You know, it is businesses today who are going into disadvantaged parts of the community or the country and are actually giving people life chances. And we need to get better at doing that, and we need to get better at progression, and we need to get better at coaching success from people from ethnic groups and other disadvantaged groups. But I do think it's business who are at the front line of this. You know, you'll watch the television, you'll hear lots of people debating this, but actually businesses are solving this. And could we do better? Of course. But I mean, you've got a pretty good story to tell, don't you, in Wales?
I totally agree. And I think from the diversity and inclusion perspective, it's about, as business leaders, you need to remove any ego and have a good, honest look at your business and your practices and how you deal with things day to day to say, am I doing the right thing? What else can I be doing? Engage with your people and give them the space to give you some real, honest feedback. The opinions are already there in the business, aren't they? It's about giving people that the element and the capability of saying what they think. We are an employer of choice, if you like, in North Wales. We've got nearly 1,000 people. We've had 8,000 CVs sent to us in the past 12 months because people want to work for Moneypenny. So if you go and do it, as a business leader, you go and do the right thing for your people, it will help your clients. Happy people make happy clients, don't they? And they want to stay with you, and they will tell their friends, and you've got similar like-minded people who want to be part of your business. And I just think if you go and do the right thing across the board, whether it's for your business, your people, and for your community, the right rewards will happen at the bottom line.
Spot on, and I keep saying through this pandemic, it's how you treat your employees, people will remember. And you're an example over here. Would you like to come in on this? You've already touched on it earlier, but I'm sure you have lots of specific examples as well.
Well, of course, there's three things that really matter in a business: your people, your product services, and your customer supplier relationships. And people are the most important. And we know through all the challenges of COVID, the mental health issues, making sure that businesses are ready for that, to make sure we can support our people. We've heard about upskilling, training, making sure that they have the right qualities to actually work, and the values in the business are so important for those type of things. But I think also motivation, and that works in different ways, and I really want to bring in about our third sector here, the charities and the voluntary sectors. It's a big employer, and we know through COVID how they were instrumental in helping so many people in our community. I think there's a real opportunity for business now to work much closer with our third sector, and it's not always about financial giving, it's about our skills, our entrepreneurship. How do we help them create business models so that instead of fundraising every year? I think there's a lot of opportunities to use our people and build up that self-esteem to actually work with other organizations like that. So there's lots of ways that business can help, not just the people that they employ, but the community around them.
Corinne, I do want to say, look, just coming back to the questioner, we're being incredibly optimistic, and everybody's talked about opportunity. But there's also obligation too. I mean, I think everybody knows that after the pandemic, there are corners of society, there are corners of the country in terms of economic development that are at risk of being left behind. So I think it's our obligation to bring people with us on this journey. I think the optimism is real, but I'm not naive enough to think that this happens, inclusion happens by itself. It happens because we bring people along for this journey, and we put them in the lead of this journey and make them feel part of it. It is incumbent upon us to do that as well.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. And then the examples are inspirational. I went to a restaurant opening recently, a restaurant that had been closed, had given 100,000 meals to their local hospitals. I mean, incredible what people have done. Yeah. So not just good, what's the saying, not just being the best in the world, being best for the world. Mm-hmm. And I believe in that. Now, we have, Keith, I'm coming to you to just change gear. You mentioned regulation. How important is regulation? This is a question that's come in achieving all of this, and what needs to happen to really support companies like yours to invest when it comes to regulation?
Yeah, it's critical. Regulation is a critical part of a lot of the frameworks we operate in to encourage investment and support investment in the UK. And the couple of critical things we need to focus on is the balance between regulation and market frameworks. and looking at each sector where we want to see investment come through and make sure we get that balance right, because it shouldn't be one or the other. It's about a mixture, about how you encourage the investment up front, how you create the frameworks, how you then hand it over to a market and get competition involved and get innovation involved. But regulation can also help support early stage innovation. And also regulation can be a very, very effective way of spreading cost. So, for example, if you look at the future of rollout of electric vehicle charge points, yes, you could leave it to the market. Yes, you can leave it to competition. It'll drive some innovation. It'll spread some of the charge points out. But we all know, and we've seen the lessons of broadband, that what the market will try and do is go to the areas where they believe there's greatest intensity of customer activity and therefore greatest area of making return and making investment sense. So we need to balance that with a regulatory model that ensures everyone in society gets access to this future. Everyone in society should have access to electric public transport and electric charge points as well on the street. And so you need to balance that market with regulation. It also helps to spread the cost. You can spread the cost of that investment over 35, 40 years through a regulatory model and attract investment into it as well. So that massively helps you manage the impact and the cost to the end consumer. So again, you balance it. But I think the most critical thing for us in the UK with regulation just now is actually agreeing that roadmap and agreeing the speed. This is about pace to me. It's the most critical thing about all of this to me around the future of decarbonising the UK is about the pace we want to do it. And I think the faster we go, the more we grab the opportunity and the more we grab all of the benefits. Yes, there's a risk of making mistakes, but I'm telling you, to decarbonise the UK between now and 2050, we will make some mistakes. There's just no doubt in it. And we just need to be prepared for that and not be frightened by it. We need to push ahead and take some risks and get the investment going and get the regulatory models working in the same direction as government policy and in the same direction as investors want to go and the same direction that consumers want the product. And if we can get that tied up, then I think we can make it a huge success.
It's so good, the space. I'm going to come to you, Tony, that one of my favorite sayings is good judgment comes from experience and experience comes from bad judgment. So you've got to actually make those mistakes and learn from the mistakes and progress. So Tony, what do you think about regulation? Such an important point. You put it very well, Keith. Thank you.
Yeah, look, I think, if we're honest, right at the heart of this whole plan, the government's plan for growth, our plan for growth, is the belief that public investment is going to be matched and exceeded by private sector investment. So if you look at the government's plan, whether or not it's their R&D target of 2.4% of GDP, the new infrastructure bank, the decarbonisation plan, the levelling up plan, all of it is a bet that private sector investment will be crowded in. And Keith sort of highlighted a few of the preconditions to crowding in private sector investment. The first one is certainty. Right? Can we have clear policy? Can we stop changing government policy all the time? Can we have clear policy? And I really like the Keith's idea about clear milestones and timetables for what's going to happen when. That gives people confidence to invest. Clarity of the tax framework, clarity of support for business investment in tax terms. That gives people confidence to invest. And to Keith's point about regulation, regulation really gives people confidence to invest. So if it makes allowance for private sector investment as one of its objectives, if it makes allowance for innovation as one of its objectives, and if it looks like it's not going to change all the time, then that's the sort of magic formula that we all need if we're going to realise both the Chancellor and our hopes for funding all this growth going forward.
Fantastic, fantastic. Now, this always happens. We're running out of time. So I'm going to give you all a chance to just give your final concluding thoughts, each one of you in turn. But while you're thinking about that, here's a question for all of you. Many of these terms and concepts that we've mentioned, and it's a question that's come in, mentioned in Seize the Moment, have been around for a long while. How do we ensure that this time it's going to be different? Otherwise, you're talking about platitudes and cliches. How do we make sure this time it's different? Would you like to start with that?
Thank you for letting me go first there. How do you make sure this time it's different? I think we need to give people the confidence to drive change. Like Tony says, it's about creating an environment that you can fail and that it's okay to fail. Go and take those risks. And collaboration with lots and lots of different groups of people, business, government, private sector, public sector, education system as well. And if we can all just understand what everybody else's drivers are and have confidence, I think that means that we will be able to drive this through.
Okay. Nick, what about you?
Well, all of the above and everything that we've talked about today. But I think this confidence side is very important. And also, you know, we sometimes think of innovation and big words like this, that this is the new drug that we discover. But it really isn't. It's continuous improvement in our businesses. Any business can look at those type of things from, you know, we had a very clever young apprentice who found a very clever way of actually saving money on our photocopying, and it saved us £5,000 a month to actually save on photocopying. Now, to me, that's an innovation. So it's like business actually adapting, changing, embracing, whether it be through international trade or innovation, making sure that we do things differently for our people. It's that going for it and trying, and this is the time to do that. As we say, let's seize the moment.
Excellent, thank you. And Keith, just briefly from you, before I
Yeah,
start now with your final one-sentence concluding thoughts.
So I would just say to you is, look, when we invented the modern world, when we invented Great Britain, it's because it was such a massive process and a massive change. And as much as tackling climate change and reinventing Britain this time looks quite big and quite scary, it gives us that same opportunity. We can reinvent our future, reinvent our economy, and reinvent the way we do everything. That allows you to change every rule and start from scratch. And therefore, it gives you that opportunity to build back better. It gives you the opportunity to seize the moment, to make sure you build in opportunities, training, jobs, supply chain, manufacturing. You can do it all from scratch because you're making such a massive change. So massive change might look scary, but to me, it creates the best opportunity we've ever had in our history.
Fantastic, fantastic. Joanna, over to you for your concluding thoughts.
My concluding thought would be that we all, every single day, say, how can I help? And if we all do one thing every day that can drive change in our communities, change in our business, change in our behaviours as leaders, then we will be moving in the right direction.
Fantastic, fantastic. Nick?
Well, I started with it, and I think I'm going to end with that as well. Collaboration, working together, whether that be in our own companies as teams, whether that be through the UK or globally. I think that's a real big step for us. We do have an opportunity now. We're a different UK today than we were 15 months ago or 3 years ago, and I think it's really now time to actually embrace those opportunities and really go for it.
Fantastic. Keith, any last thoughts?
Speed and delivery. They're absolutely essentials to create success out of this. Is we need to move fast and we need to get on and deliver.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, all three of you. What amazing input, real, specific, urgency, action. It's come through very clearly. Tony, now your concluding thoughts after your speech, after this panel discussion, after the questions from the audience. Over to you.
Yeah. You know, I've been doing roundtables on this for a few months now, and I got a zinger of a question on Thursday. I was presenting to a small group of SMEs, and I did my usual high energy pitch, and somebody said to me, Tony, it's hard to see the blue sky from the bottom of a well. Right? There's a lot of businesses in the country right now who are really struggling to get back on their feet. And so, I mean, I was a bit floored by the question, but I probed it a bit further. And what was clear, to Keith's point, was what we needed in the economy was growth. You know, what gives you the hand up out of the well before you can see the blue sky is growth in our economy. And that's why I think this whole strategy is about being growth focused. And that will need milestones, speed, delivery, all those things that Keith said that are proof points for people to have the confidence to go for it. Final thought about why this time's different, Karen. I think we need to make optimism and action infectious. And, you know, Britain's usually very good at pessimism and passivity, or passivity. But I think we need to make optimism and action infectious. And we're going to make a start at the CBI. We're going to be both those things in the next few months. We are going to be optimistic, realistic but optimistic. And also we're going to follow action, whether it's decarbonisation or technology or trade or levelling up. we are going to, if you're a CBI member, you're going to hear a lot from us about how you can get involved, what you can be doing, and sharing best practice amongst business leaders like that. So optimism and action, let's make them infectious, because everybody in the economy right now needs growth, and they need line of sight to growth, and that's what Seize the Moment is about.
Fantastic. Wow. So, on that note, I will just try and pull this all together with what a rich session we've had in over an hour. Keith, thank you so much for starting us all off on people, jobs, opportunity, net zero. The massive opportunity. This kept coming up, job creation, new skills. And this year it's delivery, it's talk, not talk, action. That's come through again. Joanna, you know, powerful, use the word powerful, sharing. This came through a lot, sharing. We've never had this moment before. Nick, you quoted Churchill about pessimism versus optimism, and that's where Tony's just spoken about. And Keith, you know, such specific examples on wind farms, on leading. This is a watershed moment. COP26, inward investment, how it's a race when it comes to inward investment. Electric vehicles, you've used specific examples about electric vehicles. Heat, you spoke about heat as well in our heat commission. And the point, 240,000 net new jobs just from the green industrial revolution, the hydrogen economy, and this role of government of providing the framework, but then you've got innovation, you've got market mechanisms to put it all together. Speed came through again. And Joanna, I love the way you said we're trying to change the world. I mean, that's what we're all in our own businesses. We're trying to change the world in some way or the other. Nick, you spoke about collaboration. You brought in universities. The vaccine project would never have happened without universities, government, and business working together. And Keith, of course, we all love Scotland. Scotland invented the modern world. So, well, you know this. Scotland's always been there at the forefront. And again, innovation. The levelling up point about being all UK, COP26 in Glasgow, a showcase to the world. Entrepreneurship, we touched on entrepreneurship throughout as well. Upskilling, this huge opportunity for upskilling. And the disruption, Tony, I love the way you put that this is a disruptive moment, and disruptive leads, you know, the Brexit, COVID, net zero. And Joanna, you said, you know, you could either hide, survive, or thrive. And that's what entrepreneurial businesses have done. Adaptability, resilience that you've come through with, global competitiveness, the whole exporting side of things, global supply chains that Keith spoke about, and then, of course, diversity and inclusion. We spoke about that, the ethnicity pay gap, the gender pay gap we think they should be reported on. And then honest feedback for employees. That's the whole thing. We've got to get that, and then we can, and what you've done with your company, happy people, happy clients. Mental health we've spoken about, and then this whole concept of putting back into the community that we all spoke about. It's been so inspirational. Regulation we discussed in detail, and Keith, you put it absolutely perfect. You need this balance between regulation and market forces, because it's got to be access for everyone, and that was brilliantly put. So, Tony, thank you so much for leading this. It's all down to confidence as well. This has got to generate confidence to drive change, and we've got to take advantage of this opportunity. And you ended by saying, this is growth-focused. Let's make optimism and action infectious. So let's seize the moment. Thank you, everyone, for attending. This is a great start. Now the action really starts. Thank you very much.